I need to tell you about something that happened at my school, something that still haunts me to this day. It's about a teacher who seemed normal at first but turned out to be someone truly disturbing. I'm still scared thinking about it, but I feel like I need to share this story because what happened could happen to anyone, and I don't want others to make the same mistakes I made. So, let me start from the beginning. I was always a good student. I paid attention in class, did my homework, studied hard, and my grades reflected that. But I wasn't just about school. When I got home every day, I had this routine where I'd jump on Roblox and play for a few hours. It was my way of unwinding, you know? And even though I played a lot, my grades never dropped because I managed my time pretty well. I didn't play alone, though. I had this classmate, let's call him David, and we'd play together almost every day. David wasn't like me when it came to school. His grades were pretty bad, honestly. He was always getting in trouble with teachers because he wouldn't pay attention in class, and sometimes he'd even make fun of the teachers behind their backs. I'll admit, those attitudes bothered me a bit. It wasn't cool, but despite that, I really enjoyed playing Roblox with him. We mostly talked through the game, but I considered him a friend. A real friend. Everything changed when this new teacher arrived at our school. The previous teacher had to retire because he got seriously ill, so they brought in this replacement. The moment she walked into our classroom, I could feel this energy. She looked strict, stern, always had this angry expression on her face. You know those teachers who just seem perpetually upset? That was her. The problems started about a week after she arrived. David was doing his usual thing, not paying much attention during class, and it really got under her skin. One day, she just snapped and kicked him out of the classroom. I was shocked because none of our previous teachers had ever done that to David. Sure, they'd scold him, maybe give him detention, but never just throw him out like that. That same day, when I got home and logged into Roblox, David was already there waiting. He was furious. He kept saying how unfair it was, how he hadn't done anything wrong, how that teacher just had it out for him from the start. I tried to be the voice of reason. I told him he should probably apologize to the teacher, try to smooth things over so he wouldn't have more problems. But David refused. He was adamant that he hadn't done anything to deserve being kicked out. What happened next, I honestly didn't see coming. The very next day, David came to school angry. And I mean really angry. He wasn't just not paying attention anymore. He was actively disrupting the class, making jokes about the teacher, talking back to her, interrupting her lessons. The teacher was livid. She kicked him out again, and this time David actually left, but not before making a scene. I was genuinely shocked by his behavior. David had never been a model student, but he'd never been this deliberately disruptive either. After school, we met up on Roblox again, and I had to ask him what was going on. Why had he acted that way? His answer chilled me a little. He said that since the teacher had kicked him out unfairly the first time, he figured he might as well give her actual reasons to kick him out. He wanted to prove a point. I tried again to convince him to apologize, to just smooth things over and move on. But David was stubborn. He refused. Things escalated quickly after that. The teacher and David were constantly at each other's throats. When she'd tell him to leave the classroom, he'd refuse to move, just sit there in his seat. It got so bad that the teacher finally did what I knew was coming. She called David's parents. When his parents came to the school, the teacher laid out everything. David's lack of attention, his disruptions, his disrespect. His parents couldn't believe it because at home, David was always well behaved. They apologized profusely to the teacher and promised it would never happen again. For a whole week, I didn't play Roblox with David. His parents had taken away his phone and gaming privileges as punishment. During that week at school, I noticed David had completely changed. He was quiet, attentive, didn't cause any trouble. His parents had given him an ultimatum. One more complaint from the teacher, and his phone would be gone forever. No more Roblox. Ever. David was terrified of losing Roblox permanently. He loved playing, and he especially loved our gaming sessions together. So he made the decision to just keep his head down and not give the teacher any more reasons to complain. When the week was over and David got his phone back, we finally reconnected on Roblox. He told me he couldn't say anything to the teacher anymore, couldn't do anything that might jeopardize his gaming. I was actually happy to hear that. I didn't want to lose my gaming buddy either. But that's when everything took a dark turn. Now that David wasn't giving her any trouble, you'd think things would get better, right? Wrong. The teacher still held a grudge against him for everything he'd done before. And she started taking it out on him in the worst ways possible. She'd tell the entire class that David was a terrible student, that he was stupid, that nobody should be friends with him. She'd say these things right in front of everyone, humiliating him publicly. And David would just sit there, taking it, because if he said anything back, she might call his parents, and then goodbye Roblox forever. The insults got worse. Whenever the teacher was in a bad mood, which seemed to be almost every day, she'd take it out on David. She'd call him names, belittle him, and the entire class would laugh. Nobody stood up for him. Not even me, and that's something I'll always regret. When we'd play Roblox together, David would tell me how terrible he felt. How he wanted to fight back, to say something, to do something, but he couldn't risk it. I kept telling him to tell his parents what was really happening, but he said they wouldn't believe him. After all the trouble he'd caused, who would? Things got physical one day. David was talking to another student during class, just a quick conversation, nothing major. But the teacher saw it, marched right up to him, grabbed his ear, and pulled it hard while yelling at him that there's no talking in her class and that she'd tell his parents. David screamed from the pain but didn't say anything after that. None of us did. The entire classroom went silent. We couldn't believe what we'd just witnessed. A teacher had physically hurt a student right in front of us. Then she threatened all of us. She said if anyone told anyone about what happened, she'd fail us all, make us repeat the year. Just like that, she went back to teaching as if nothing had happened. I was horrified. When I got home and played with David that day, I begged him to tell someone. This wasn't normal. This was abuse. But David refused. He said as long as he could keep playing Roblox, he didn't care what they did to him. I couldn't understand how he could say that. How could a game be more important than his own well-being? Then came the worst day. The day everything fell apart. The teacher came to class that day angrier than I'd ever seen her. She looked possessed, honestly. Her face was twisted with rage, like she had the worst day of her life and was ready to take it out on someone. David made a simple mistake. He stood up to ask a classmate for an eraser. That's it. Just stood up for an eraser. The teacher exploded. She screamed at him to sit down immediately. David, confused, explained he just needed an eraser. She screamed again for him to sit down. And for the first time in weeks, David didn't listen. He stayed standing, waiting for his classmate to get the eraser from his pencil case. That's when the teacher snapped completely. She stormed over to David, grabbed his ear viciously, and started dragging him out of the classroom. I don't know what came over me, but I stood up and followed them. I thought maybe I could reason with her, tell her she was going too far. The teacher dragged David to this hidden spot in the school where nobody usually went. She didn't realize I was following them. She thought they were alone. What I witnessed next will haunt me for the rest of my life. She started hitting David. Not just slapping. I mean really hitting him with some kind of stick or rod she had grabbed. She was screaming at him, asking why he never listened to her, why he was always causing problems. David was crying, sobbing, but he wasn't fighting back. He couldn't. If he did, she'd call his parents. If his parents found out, no more Roblox. I stood there frozen, watching this teacher brutally beat my friend. She kept hitting him over and over. David's screams echoed in that empty space. Then she hit him hard on the head with that stick, and David just collapsed. He went completely unconscious. That's when I finally moved. I ran up to her and told her what she'd done was wrong, that I was going to tell everyone what she did to David. She looked at me with these cold eyes and threatened me. She said if I said one word, the same thing would happen to me. She'd fail me, make me repeat the year, make my life a living hell. I was terrified. I went back to the classroom and sat down, completely silent. My hands were shaking. A little while later, the teacher came back without David. She told the class that David had fallen and hit his head. An accident. I knew it wasn't true. I knew exactly what had happened. But I didn't say anything. I was too scared. That's why I'm sharing this story now. Because I made a terrible mistake. I stayed silent when I should have spoken up. I let fear control me, and because of that, David suffered even more. If something like this ever happens to you, or if you see it happening to someone else, please don't stay silent like I did. Speak up. Tell someone. Tell everyone if you have to. Because staying quiet only protects the abusers and hurts the victims. I learned that lesson the hard way, and I'll carry that guilt with me forever.